Now, I stepped into a world just as real as this. I am telling you, there are worlds within worlds within worlds, and they're all here right now. Just like turning on a radio, and you turn it ever so slightly, and you have a new wavelength and a new station coming in, bringing something entirely different, and they're not interfering with each other. And these worlds are all here now, and there are people, just as we are peopling this world, and they're just as real as this world. It's terrestrial. And it doesn't, you don't walk for it. I was on the bed. I seemed to walk into it. I would say, 10 feet away? But the same area permeated the bed, and the bed did not obstruct it. And that world into which I stepped did not obstruct the house that I lived in Beverly Hills. It's all here, the whole vast world. Worlds within worlds within worlds. So I tell you, facts are the flood. That's the deluge. There was no other kind of flood. We are actually inundated with the facts of life. And these facts, we change them every day. Today, this is the cause of so-and-so. Tomorrow, that's not so. It's another cause we found. And then the next day, another cause. But while we haven't found the next cause, we believe that to be the fact. And we worship the facts. So I tell you, all things are in the human imagination. Man is all imagination. And God is man. And exists in us, and we in him. The eternal body of man is the imagination. And that is God himself. There is no other God. It's all your own wonderful human imagination. And the one thing the whole vast world aches for is the awakening of the imagination. And when it comes with the birth of the promised child, which sets a man free from the horrors of this world we call the world of nature. For nature is simply that principle on which depends the sameness of forms in transmitted life. And so the thing goes over and over. Now you can penetrate the fact and break it. And that's what we're here to teach. I come not to abolish the law and the prophets. I come not to abolish them, but to fulfill them. And tell you the real law. It's not washing your hands before meals, although that's a very nice, clean thing to do. It's not giving certain diets, doing this, that, and the other. He explains that the entire law is psychological. He takes one of the commandments, which is a graphic one, to show you how everything must be interpreted psychologically. He said, you have heard it said of old, you shall not commit adultery. But I say unto you, any man who looks lustfully upon a woman has already committed the act in his heart with her. But what man hasn't? What man has not violated that? So he tells you the whole thing is a psychological thing. You can't restrain the impulse because you may restrain it based upon 1,000 different reasons. Maybe you are afraid of the consequences. Maybe you are afraid that someone will find out. Maybe you're afraid of this, that, and the other. But the impulse was there, and he tells you the impulse was the act. Well, if the impulse was the act, then creative acts are imaginal. For it was an imaginal act. So I have to observe my imaginal acts. For the imaginal act is a fact. It's going to actually become a fact and then confront me. Here was a lady in San Francisco. I shall tell you what, that you may try it so you can give all praise to yourself and not to me. You do it. But what must I do? Well, if he was out, would he come home? Oh, yes, he'd come straight to my place. All right. And if he came to your place, what would you do? Well, she said, I would throw my arms around him and kiss him. Feel him. I said, all right, do that. When you go home tonight, sit where you would normally sit, and just imagine that your brother is there, and that you have thrown your arms around him, and you're holding him and hugging him, and kissing him. The next Sunday morning, in my meeting in San Francisco, that woman could rise and tell this story. She said, I went home, and I imagine I heard the doorbell ring. And the doorbell is downstairs. I have to run down one flight of stairs to answer that door. So I heard it ring, and I ran downstairs, and I flung the doors open, and here stood my brother. I went back upstairs. There was no brother, but I did it so vividly, it was almost like a disappointment that I didn't actually see him standing there. But it seemed so real to me. Well, a few days later, she's sitting upstairs, and the doorbell rings, because I knew what was going to happen. And here she threw the door open. Here is her brother. And she stood up in the audience and told that story to the 1,000 who were present that Sunday morning. And they all saw. But the thing is to practice. We are the operant power. And the flood is on. Let no one tell you the flood is over. And the flood is deeper and deeper because we're more and more inclined for facts. We want the facts of life. But learn how to penetrate the facts. And as you penetrate the fact, you must go to a certain objective beyond the fact. What do you want now? Well, then you go into the state of the wish fulfilled. What state? The state you decide. You determine what you want in this world. And you go right into that state. And then ignore the facts. Suppose the facts now still denies what you did. It doesn't matter. Let the facts remain. They'll dissolve. They'll all dissolve because you're going to remain faithful and you'll occupy the state. No longer are you going to construct it and not occupy it. You're going to occupy the state. And as you occupy the state, it's going to work.